already learned how to be a cool hairstylist from her, and now she's going to tell her travel experiences and useful travel tips and push for everyone to explore, whether near or far. Please welcome Dione Johnson.
Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests. I'm glad there's cupcakes because it's going to help me keep you entertained, as I actually had to take a last-minute trip this weekend. My husband and I, we drove to Virginia Beach and back. Very long trip, about 17 and a half hours each way. So my eyes are a little droopy right now, and I'm going to do my best to stay alert and engaged with this speech. But I'm glad you have cupcakes, because that'll help the situation even more. The first thing I really wanted to talk about was the fact that, in my experience, travel has been very beneficial. It's been an opportunity to learn, to explore, to get outside of my daily life. My first serious trip or first travel was when I was in college. I talked about this in my icebreaker a little bit, but I went to Ghana, West Africa, and I spent a year there studying, learning, meeting new people, but traveling on the weekends. And the experiences that I had, I'm so glad that I took advantage of that. And so that's really the point of my speech tonight, is to share some of those stories with you, encourage you to get out there. It doesn't have to be to West Africa. Maybe it's right here in Arkansas, say to Central High School, which has a lot of history, and it's a beautiful campus. I myself haven't been there yet, but my husband and my stepdaughters were actually just visiting last week for their spring break. And my stepdaughters were visiting, and my husband took them to Central High School, and they loved it. They took a lot of photos, they learned about the history, and I think it's just something that I wanted to encourage you, because it's right here in our backyard, to take advantage of as well. But going back to my trip to Ghana, while there, to be honest, when I first arrived, I thought to myself, what have I done? What did I sign up for? I had no idea. I had a lot of fantasies and dreams of what maybe Ghana would be like. I would arrive and everyone would say, welcome home, and I would immediately have a bond, being that I am of African descent. Interestingly though, once I got there was a little bit of a disconnect. I didn't quite have a lot of knowledge about the culture that I probably should have had before traveling, and I learned it on the way. While I was there, I learned. But it took me a little while to find that connection, to realize that there were people there that were very friendly, that as long as I asked questions and I remained humble and non-judgmental, were really going to take me in, basically, and show me the ropes. So that's something when I went to Ghana that I learned early on. Now, one of the tips that I wanted to provide to you is something that I learned early as well, which was that I had to be very patient. The speed of life was a little slower than what I was used to. Doing something as simple as going to the bank and taking out $100, which actually with the conversion of the money, you wouldn't need to take that much out. Let's say $20. If you want to take $20 out the bank, here, how long does it typically take? You could drive through the ATM, right? Just go to the ATM, 3 minutes, 2 minutes, you got your $20. I learned while I was in Ghana that withdrawing $20, it could take an hour. It sounds crazy, but it could really take an hour. You would get there, you'd stand in line, and you'd stand in line, they call the queue, stand in line, you stand in line some more, and then eventually you'd be able to get up to the front, and maybe you'd find that you didn't have a form that you needed or something, and you'd have to come back. Or if you were able to do it in that one trip, 60 minutes later, you would leave the bank with your $20. So that was very frustrating for me in the beginning. But what I did learn is once I knew how things operated, I came prepared. I brought a book. I was ready for the fact that it was going to take a little longer. You know, I had my camera, I found things, I talked to the people in line with me. Once you become a little more relaxed and comfortable with that, you just make every opportunity a learning opportunity. Every opportunity is something that you're going to gain from. So that's one thing to keep in mind when you're traveling out of the country, that is. If you're traveling here in the U.S., of course, that necessarily doesn't come into play at all times, but it's something to think about. Now, as I was coming up with what I was going to talk about tonight, I thought to myself, we're in pretty tough times now. You know, money isn't necessarily flowing for everybody the way that maybe it has at one point or another. So traveling and spending that money on a flight may not be an option. It's not an option for me right now. That's why I'm glad I did it while I was a college student. But for those of us who maybe are on a tight budget and looking to travel somewhere close, think about how you can actually do that and not have to pay out of your own pocket. One of the ways that I've done that is to use work travel. If you're traveling anyway, I know that in your icebreaker you talked about traveling for work, and some of us have mentioned that. Step out after your meetings and when you're in your downtime and take advantage of that. Walk down the street, have a map, maybe ask the hotel for some tips so that you're safe. But I've done that when I've traveled to San Francisco for work in the past and ended up in Chinatown. And I'm looking around thinking, oh, wow, you know, this is a vacation, but I'm here for work. So I really encourage you to do that yourself. Have your camera, it may be on your phone, it doesn't necessarily have to be around your neck. But take advantage of documenting that time. And really it's your free time, but you're getting it through work, which is great. That's something that I really try to take advantage of when I can. My husband actually, for his work, he went to, what was it? Iowa. And I actually received photos back from him from his phone. He had gone and visited all of the bridges of Madison County, you know, in his off time after work. And I thought, kind of jealous. Like, I should have thought of that. But that's one of the ways. He also went and visited John Wayne's boyhood home, or where he grew up. So another example of how you can do that. Now, the biggest reason that I feel travel is so important for you to take into consideration is that it really helps you to understand others. Like I said at the beginning, you want to step outside of your normal day-to-day. You want to think about how others are leading their lives. And there are three things that I really, really wanted to leave you with when thinking about traveling, just 3 tips. One of the things that I really learned, and this is going to sound funny, but it's very important to remember when you're traveling, no matter where you go, to always have toilet paper. And I'm going to tell you this from firsthand experience. You don't want to be without it. You may have to find other ways and search for toilet paper or whatnot. But it's very important for you to remember that. Also, we already talked about this, but have an open mind. Be non-judgmental and really think about everything as a learning opportunity. And then the last thing was to have fun. I think I really end every speech that I give with that because I think it's so important. And that's one of the biggest things for me with travel is to have fun. Life is about enjoying oneself. It's about helping others. And for me, travel is just one more way to do that.